The reason that movie resonated with me is I could resonate with that character. Yeah, he got beat up. He wasn't smart enough. He had dyslexia. I have dyslexia. Other world champions stuttered when and they overcame that, and they still went on to be the world champions.
Hello, Darren. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Patty.
I'm so excited that you said yes to join the Break Time with Patty show. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I must say, you are a legendary phenomenon in the public speaking world.
You're very kind. Thank you.
The vast majority of Toastmasters, TED Talkers, keynote speakers know who Darren Lacroix is. However, for the rest of the planet that has absolutely no clue who you are, here's a little preview of who Darren Lacroix is. Brace yourself. I hope you're sitting down at home. Darren is the 2001 World Champion of Public Speaking. He is the founder of StageTimeUniversity.com, where good presenters become unforgettable. Darren is currently the only speaker in the world who is a certified speaking professional, an accredited speaker, and a world champion of public speaking. He is the co-host of the Unforgettable Presentations podcast with his BFF, Mark Brown, and he's the co-author of 2 books, Laugh and Get Rich and The Speaker's Edge. And he's also the author of the book, 17 Minutes to Your Dream, which I pre-ordered already, and I cannot wait to get my copy when it's released. All right, I've talked enough. Woo! Let's get started. Darren, let's go back in time a little bit. Tell us about young Darren as a little boy. How are you as a child and growing up?
I was quiet and shy and naive, all in one. And I remember one specific moment that kind of defined my journey. When I was 8 years old, my brother and cousin, we were at this large Polish family. I'm half French and half Polish, big Polish family for one of the holidays. And my brother and cousin, the naturally funny class clowns of our family, they had everybody laughing, and they were recapping Saturday Night Live skits and Steve Martin jokes, and everyone is in hysterics. And I have twin aunts they laugh in harmony. And you can't not laugh when they get going. It's like, fwa, fwa, fwa. And it's just infectious. And I remember I was sitting at the kids' table, the card table, the rickety card table, and I was getting so caught up, and I just loved seeing the joy. And the fact that my brother and cousin could bring this from what they did to the whole family just filled my heart. And I got a little jealous too. And so I stood up and I threw out a punchline and I hushed my whole family. And I was so embarrassed. And as an 8-year-old kid, I just slid back into my chair and I swore to myself, I will never, ever try to be funny again. Because they say you can learn a lot in life, but some people believe that you just can't learn to be funny. And so I put that dream away, let that go. And I, was the quiet, shy, nice guy. My sister was the brain of the family. My brother was the super jock, and I was just the nice guy. And so, nice guys, there's not a lot of job applications for that. But I found that I loved business. So I went to 4 years of business school. And after that, I went for the American dream. I opened up a Subway franchise, my Subway sandwich shop, and I was so thrilled. But Subway opened another one right down the road for me. I took all the profits off the top, and I had to go get a day job in order to pay my employees so I didn't default on the loan. Now, a lot of people feel bad for me. It was the greatest thing I needed. I needed that at the time. I needed to take responsibility. I needed to suck it up, Buttercup. And it's just where I was at. So it was perfect. But at the time, I had college loans, but now I lost my business. So I had to sell my business at a loss. So now I still had the business loan, but no business to pay it off. I still had college loans, and I was very depressed. And my buddy gave me this motivational tape of a man named Brian Tracy. And I kind of like these motivational tapes. They really made me feel good and filled me up. And I like that. And I remember one day I was driving down Route 20, Auburn, Massachusetts, near where I lived. And I heard him ask a question. And for me, it was life changing. He asked a question. He said, what would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail? What would I dare to dream if I wouldn't fail? What? I'd be a comedian. How cool would that be? Make an audience laugh and earn a living at that. That would be the ultimate. But all of a sudden, a little voice of doubt on my shoulder said, but you're not funny. But that wasn't the question. The question was, what would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail? And it took me a couple of years to figure out why comedian came up in that moment. And upon reflection, I realized it was that 8-year-old dreamer. It was that kid that embarrassed himself. And if I could make people laugh, that would be the ultimate. But when Brian Tracy phrased it in a way that said, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? And so that kind of sent me off on a new life trajectory. And it wasn't a dream at that point. It was just, I didn't want to live my life with the regret of wondering, what if Brian Tracy was right? So I don't know if you want me to continue with the story, but I know this is your show. You're
yes, no, yes, I love to hear you speak. Oh, I have all kinds of questions for you. So yes, we have time. But I'll ask you questions that will continue on this. So thank you so much. It's and I'm a huge fan of Brian Tracy. One of my determining moment was when I read The Power of Self-Discipline, No Excuses. Mm-hmm. That's been the reason why I joined Toastmasters in the first place. Which brings me to my next question, Darren. So now you got to that point, this pivotal moment in your life. So, but what triggered you to go visit a Toastmasters club the first time? Like, what was the trigger for that?
Well, so let me back up a half a step, but it'll lead right to that. Now here I am wanting to try stand-up. But when I told my friends and family, they told me I was crazy, I was stupid, that's not for you. And they were right, unless you look at it Brian Tracy's way. And so I said, you know what? In listening to motivational tapes, I said, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, they all say, go to people who are the best. They think differently. So why was I going to somebody who wasn't a comedian? So the philosophy in self-development is go to someone who's where you want to be, ask them. So I went to a little comedy club in Worcester, Massachusetts that same week. And again, I love business, but I was still a quiet, shy introvert and still a little naive. So I worked up all the courage I could and walked up to the headliner after the show. His name is Chris. And I said, hi, my name is Darren. I want to try this. What do I need to do? And he asked me a question. He said, are you funny? I said, no. He said, good. Like, good? What do you mean good? And he went on to explain that people who are naturally funny, class clowns, he said, that's one skill set. But if you took that person and you handed them a microphone and you put them in front of 100 strangers, they couldn't make them laugh. He said, that's a different skill set, but that skill set can be learned. What? That skill set can be learned. And that was like handing me an ounce of hope. And that's the thing we all need, is that hope, especially when doubt sets in. So, long story short, he said, go to open mic nights. Don't compare yourself to great comedians. Compare yourself to other people starting out. That was a big aha. And he said, number 2, get the book. Like, book? There's a book about stand-up comedy? Of course, there's books about everything, but I wasn't thinking that way. So whatever your goal is, if you're watching this, whatever your goal, whatever your dream is, get the book. Step 1, if you're going to try anything, learn from someone who's been there and done that and follow their path, follow their suggestions. So many people waste so much time listening to people whose opinions don't matter. You know, the opinion, unless they have experience in that lane, that does not matter. Go to people who are there. And then, so I tried it once. It was horrible. I got one tiny little laugh. It was an accident. I was walking off stage and one of the other comedians was consoling me because in everyone else's mind, I bombed. And he puts his arm around my shoulder. He's like, don't worry, man. It's just your first time. And I remember thinking, don't worry. It's my first time. Did you see what I did? I got a laugh. No one told me I could do this. I don't care that it was an accident. I got a laugh. I got fruition for which I was looking for. I'll figure out why and how to reproduce it later. But right now, I got a laugh, and it was like a good instant addiction. And so as I walked off stage, I said, I'm going to get every book I can, find every mentor that I can, and take every class that I can. And I said, I'm going to figure this out. And so leading to Toastmasters, one of the things that I heard from all of my headline mentors, they said, stage time, stage time, stage time. Any day that you don't get on stage, it's a day that you don't grow. What? But what if I bomb? They said, no. That's part of growing. Bombing is part of growing. You need to get up there every day if you can. So as a wannabe comedian, it's very hard to get stage time because you're new. You don't have a good routine. You don't have confidence. You don't have stage presence. So there's only so many open mic nights. So I was in Boston. There's 100 wannabe comedians vying for the spots in 4 different clubs. And it's only one night in each club. So all these comedians are vying for those same spots because that's the only place they can get stage time. So I'm sitting at my desk at Bose Corporation, and this newsletter comes across my desk about this thing called Toastmasters. I'm reading. I'm like, what's that? And it starts dawning on me like, hey, wait a minute. Here's a place I could get stage time during the day. Comedy clubs only open at night. I could fail twice a day. Woohoo! And that's literally how I looked at it. And I walked into my first club. There was maybe 12 people there. And I noticed something very different from the comedy clubs. These people were warm, encouraging, and sober. So I immediately joined 4 Toastmaster clubs because I wanted to quadruple my failure rate. If the key to success is failing more, then up your failure rate and you'll succeed faster. And that's what I did. So that's how I came to Toastmasters.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God. Yes. That's just amazing. All right. Through your master workshops or live in Las Vegas workshops, you work with presenters from all walks of life who are eager, just like you were, to learn, just like how I am, to learn what it takes to connect deeply with their audiences. And so then from the moment then that you were stand-up comic at night and then a Toastmaster during the day, what made you want to start helping individuals?
Great question. Well, I never dreamed when I became a speaker. So I became a comedian and then I found speaking. I realized after being in comedy clubs 5 or 6 nights a week, it was draining to my soul, to who I was. It's fun to go for a night, but when you're around, people who are drinking, dirty jokes all the time, dirty language, for me, it just didn't resonate with who I was. So I was realizing it was draining after a while. And I'm thankful for my upbringing there because it uniquely positioned me to have the confidence I do now. So I'm super thankful. But at the time, I just kind of had to step back and let go of stand-up to kind of switch over to speaking. And so I never dreamed I would teach other speakers. That was not on my radar screen at all. I wanted to be a motivational humorist. And so I wrote my book, Laugh and Get Rich. I interviewed business people who used humor as part of their business plan because those are the only 2 things I cared that much about. And so after winning the World Championship in 2001, one of my mentors kept pushing me and I loved creating products. So I have, CDs and DVDs, now online courses, but back those days they were CDs and DVDs. And so I loved putting them together. And my mentor, his name was Rick. He said, Darren, you need to create a program on speaking. And I was like, the world does not need another presentation skills speaker that's not that good. Because that's all I had seen at that point. I was like, I don't want to do that. And he kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. Finally, I realized because I walked through this process to create that world championship speech, I had recorded every time because that's what I learned from comedy. So I had all these recordings and I could see the progress of the speech and the changes I made. And I thought, well, I could put together a program. So I put together a 4 CD set called Speak Like a Champion. Well, right after winning the championship, my first speech after winning the championship was in Malaysia, Kuching, Malaysia, which I had never even been out of the country in my life, other than maybe Canada, Niagara Falls, driving with my family. So I'm over there, and I had made that 4 CD set, and I had my Learn How the Pros Make Them Laugh. I had my book, and that CD set, before I even took the stage, sold out. Oh,
Yeah.
so I realized now, for many people, you might be thinking, well, duh, you won the world championship. But sometimes we don't see our own value. We don't see that uniqueness. And so that became my number one revenue stream, was that program. It outsold the other two. My notoriety helped sell all of it, but it outsold the other two because that's what people wanted to know from me. And I think for a lot of speakers, we don't realize the value that we have from our lives. We think we've got to write that speech. We think we've got to, cut our arm off on the side of a mountain because we get stuck in a crevice. Then we'll have a story. And that's not true. If we look at even the world champions, every one of them has a personal story. It's a personal, relatable story. Aaron Beverly, his was about being a guest at a wedding. Ramona Smith, hers was about her failed marriage. Mark Brown's was about literally watching TV, Disney movie with his kids. I can go on and on. Press, his was about a flat tire incident. So they're all simple stories, but somehow we think we need that fantastic one. No, you need to deliver it in a way that the audience feels it. One of the best bits of advice I got after winning was from a man named Michael Haig. And he said, the purpose of story is to elicit emotion. And I did not get that. Even when I was competing, I did not get that until later that I understood what separated people. So whether you want to win a speech contest or you want to get booked, get paid to speak, like, people got to feel your stories.
Amen, sir. Yes. All right. Oh, I'm taking notes. Actually, I'm going to rewatch it properly after to take proper notes. Obviously, this is awesome stuff. Okay, we need to take a little pause here to share with the audience. Your winning speech, ouch, was so earth-shadowing for me that I just stood there, speechless, in disbelief and in awe. Don't worry, I won't give any spoilers. I was thinking, did he really just do that? Like, can that even be done in a speech? It was genius, mind-blowing. Please, at home, help yourself, go watch it. I'm convinced that no other speech has ever made me laugh this much while inspiring me so much at the same time. Darren, this is actually the reason why you were the first world champion I went to. I have a few other that will follow, but I wanted it to be you, and I'm so happy. Thank you so much for saying yes. You're my hero. Can you tell us a little bit about what made you decide to start competing from the moment that all of that just happened now? Why did you start to just say, yes, I'm going to compete?
Well, two things. First, I didn't know the speech contest went past the 4th level, which is the district level. So there's 6, now there's 7 levels of the contest. In my day, there was 6. So the 4th level, which is basically for me was Massachusetts, New England. And I thought that was it. But the reason that I competed, I had a comedy mentor. His name was Dave Fitzgerald. He was one of my best friends in the world. And he was noticing that I was trying to find my story to launch my career, that signature story that we're known for. And I would bring him a story, and I bring him another story, bring another story. He said, Darren, stop. He said, stop trying to find the story that will launch your career, and instead take the stories you already have and make them so good someone will pay to hear them. And that was, I felt like a cartoon where they take the head and they go, it was a game changer for me. I never looked at it that way. I just thought your life presented you with a story. You add a little drama, edit it a little, and you're done. I didn't realize there's a time-proven structure to great stories. I mean, Hollywood movies follow a structure to the T. in the exact minutes. You could almost follow it. So I didn't realize that was the possibility. And my mentor, Dave, who taught me that, passed away in 2000. And so I heard about the speech contest, and now understand where I'm at. I'm working full-time job at Bose Corporation. I'm a telemarketer. That's my day job as I pursued my dream of comedy and speaking. And so here I am working a day job. I'm speaking anywhere and everywhere I can. And I'm marketing myself every waking moment, living at home with mom and dad, digging out of that debt. And so the one thing I wasn't doing was perfecting my craft, improving my stories. I didn't have time, but I didn't make the time, and I didn't know I needed to make the time. So when the speech contest came around in 2001, I competed once before in the humorous contest, I think in 1998. But that was just the humorous contest, different reason, different scenario. But in this contest, I joined the contest because I said, you know what? Let me look at my keynote. So my goal was not to win a contest. I had a keynote speech, and let's just say the value level is like a 5 out of 10. So my whole goal was to pull out one of my best stories, bring it over here to the speech contest format, work on it, with my goal to then put it back in the keynote, raising the value of the whole keynote. World champion Craig Valentine says, if you want to master peace, you have to master the pieces. And so that's exactly what I was doing. So I won the first level, second level, third level, and I was excited to win because now I got to work on it even more. I got to go even deeper. And that's the first time in my life I got a coach. I was like, ooh, I might have something here. Let me get a coach. So I got somebody, I found someone that I trusted and was a skilled coach and worked with him. And then I found myself winning the fourth level, and they said, oh, but you got to write a new speech. So I looked at my keynote, I pulled out another story, and I worked on it with, again, my goal to now make both of those stories better, enhancing the value of the keynote, enhancing my value in the marketplace, and the impact that I'm going to make on my audience. And then I won in Connecticut, and they said, okay, you got to write a new speech. What? So now the challenge was I didn't have any stories that would fit in this contest format after those two. So I had other stories, but they weren't really stories. And so that's when I met Mark Brown, who became my coach, the 95 world champion. And so my second point was he forced me to go deeper in me. And so he asked me a question. He said, Darren, choose a child in your life. And I was like, okay, I don't have any children. So I looked at my eldest nephew, Michael, and he said, if you were going to die tomorrow, what one lesson that you learned from your life would you want to pass on to Michael to help him through his? And I started coming up with an answer. He's like, no. Write it down. Write down every lesson you've ever learned, and you got to narrow it down to one. And it was about 3/4 of the way down the third page that I wrote down, I became a comedian because I was willing to fail. So willing to fail became the essence of I have another speech in my head, essence of ouch. So that was the working title, was willing to fail. And we get this in the contest every year. All the world champions do. What's the winning formula? What's the winning formula? It's like, I don't know. I don't know your life. There's no winning formula. It's what's that lesson in your life that you feel so passionate about. You will work on the story until it's world class, and you get that every time in front of an audience, you have a privilege.
Oh, I will be watching this interview on repeat. I suggest you do the same too at home. Thank you so much. Okay, Darren, after you've earned the title of World Champion of Public Speaking, you're in the spotlight. You were the main man. Can you share with us your most mortifying and embarrassing moment that followed, and what made you pick yourself back up and keep going?
Well, I remember vividly, I was in India, speaking in India a few years later, and I was starting to get a little egotistical. I was starting to think I was better than other people. Now, brother and sister in Christ to each other, I thought I was better than people, which that's where my ego grew. So even though I had a lot of issues in my life, I'm the world champion and people would line up to take pictures with me. And I'm an introvert and I love, after the praise people get, the questions they get, but I also get drained quickly. So I run out of energy. And I remember this one time, this young gentleman, he had a speech impediment and he came up to me and I was just tired. I had just had enough and I should have just known I needed to go to my room. But instead I tried to please people and I didn't have it in me. I needed to be recharged. And he asked me a question that was a legitimate question for him, but I'd heard it so many times. I was like, ugh. And I kind of was rude to him. And I went back to my room and I just thought about it. I came to that realization, like, Darren, how dare you? How dare you? And thank God for God. Years later, I got to see him again in India and apologize to him. And he didn't even remember. But I never forgot that when you and I are in front of an audience or behind a lens, we have this privilege to serve people. And if your ego gets in the way, something gonna come, God's gonna take you down a peg or two or 20. And so it was a valuable, embarrassing lesson. And I always say there's two biggest problems in speaking is number one, at the beginning, self-doubt, and number two, later on, is ego. So I've had a few ego checks along the way, but I always pray and ask God to speak through me whenever I get, and that keeps me humble, and that helps me rock the house because they see and feel my intention, which overrides the words that are coming out of anybody's mouth. Intention.
Oh, I love this so much. Thank you, first of all, for sharing this with us. I know it's challenge. Thank you so much for that. And we're human, we're flawed humans. And whenever those moments do happen to me, I always say, more of Jesus, less of me. My daughter says the same thing too. So yes, thank you so much for this. Darren, if a struggling business owner or an unsatisfied employee is watching this interview right now, what can you tell them that would help them to take the first step towards joining a Toastmasters club?
I remember when I had my Subway failure, there were challenges with the restaurant and the location. And I remember after, I was maybe 23 years old, I was mad, I was frustrated, and I was mad at the business, the man who rented me, leased me the property. I was mad at the franchise. I was mad at everybody. I was mad at the town because they were going to put a traffic light in right in front, which would have helped everything. So I was mad at everybody. Years later, I heard Jim Rohn, Jim Rohn, tell a story where he went to his mentor and he was complaining about everything. And I was like, oh, okay, I can relate. I'm listening. And his mentor said, Jim, write down a list of all the reasons that you're not successful and bring it back to me tomorrow. So Jim was serious. He wrote out a whole long list. He brings it to his mentor and hands it to his mentor the next day. His mentor's reading down. Says, there's one problem with this list, Jim. Your name ain't on it. And that was a big aha to me. I chose the franchise. I chose the location. I chose to be optimistic about the light coming when it wasn't coming. I chose to ignore the advice I got from a lawyer who told me they could open another Subway right down the road. I chose all of that. And I think in life, we are 100% responsible. You're the CEO of your life. You're the CEO of your dreams. You're the CEO of your career. Now, you can take people's advice. You can ignore people's advice. You can have your own board of directors, but you are still responsible. So if you are interested in self-development, if you want to get over your anxiety, there's no greater place on the planet than Toastmasters. Now, I help good presenters become unforgettable. But if somebody comes to me and they're still in the anxiety stage, they're still nervous, they're still trying to get comfort, they're not necessarily ready for me yet. I tell them to go to Toastmasters. Why? Because that's where I grew up. That's where my other world champion buddies grew up. Because you need that place to get experience. Experience is the greatest teacher. That's why stage time. They didn't tell me writing time. Look, as a comedian, you got to learn to write. But the value comes from getting up on stage, getting the experience. And that's why I wrote 17 Minutes to Your Dream. It's about getting experience every day to move you towards that dream. I know your question was about Toastmasters, but I kind of wanted to bring it in a little deeper.
I love this. Keep doing this. This is very good. Let's be thorough, Darren. Let's be thorough to make sure people get this. So awesome. Which leads me to my next question. If you can give advice to a Toastmaster that has been avoiding participating in a contest like the plague by fear of humiliation, embarrassment, or failure, what would it be?
I would ask them, why did you join Toastmasters? When I present to groups of Toastmasters, I always ask that question. I say, tell me why you joined Toastmasters. I had a fear. I needed my job, blah, blah. And I always hear the same things over and over and again. And I said, no one comes to Toastmasters to be a better presenter at Toastmasters. They came to be better in the real world. They don't know what Toastmasters is, but then we surround ourselves with these people who become our friends and people who don't want to compete. I forgive my directness, but you just don't want to grow. You need that experience. And yeah, there's anxiety, but that's where the growth is. The growth is just on the other side of your comfort zone, just outside of it. Look, I was panic stricken. I had no business being on stage. I remember sitting in my little brown Volkswagen Rabbit, 1976 Rabbit, with my little cassette player, and I would play 3 songs that would get my energy up and motivate me just to go inside and stand up. I mean, my mentor said, Darren, any day that you don't get on stage is a day that you don't grow. So, that's Toastmasters gave me that huge opportunity. But if you're not competing, just ask yourself why. And look, congratulations, you're human if you have anxiety. I get it. That's part of it. Perfect. Now let's do something about it. Going back to you're the CEO of your dream. You don't have to compete to win, compete to grow. I didn't join the contest to win. I didn't know it went past the Massachusetts level. I competed to make my stories better because that's what I wanted to do for a living. So step back and ask yourself, what's the big picture? If you can have the ability to speak confident at a meeting internally in your company, like you've never had the confidence before, that's like career changing. If you have that opportunity to get up at a town hall meeting or a parent teacher meeting where normally you would be too afraid to say something, now you have that confidence. That's why to compete.
Yes, it's so true. Everything you just told me applies to me. It's I'm new to Toastmasters. As I told you, I just joined in May, and I went really aggressive because I spent many years just like letting the past of my shame and like a few things that from my past that I just shut down. Like literally, I had no voice. And when I started joining the Toastmasters, I went all in. Like I started right away. I did my icebreaker the same day I joined. Actually, it was the 30th of April on the Friday, and they signed me up on the 1st of May. So I guess we cheated by one day. But and every role, I wanted to make sure to put it as usual as possible. Oh, to the point that applause. Oh, okay, thank you. To the point that I was so excited about Toastmasters. Whenever people would ask me, hey, how are you doing, Patricia? I say, I'm great. I joined Toastmasters. They kept asking, what's that? Toastmasters. So then basically I got fed up of always having to repeat myself. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel so people can stop asking me what Toastmasters is, And whenever I would start telling them, they would say, oh, I can never do that. I can never. Everybody, the 73% of humans that suffer from glossophobia that prefer to die than to speak in public. I said, what is wrong with these people? Like, don't they get it? Toastmasters is the way. There are other forums, but Toastmasters is huge. I don't know how many CEOs on this planet so many successful people that went through Toastmasters. And anyhow, I just want to make sure that as many people as possible can hear this. And anyhow, all that to say that as people, they say, oh, you're not shy anymore. Because already my English and my communication skills increased dramatically since I joined in May. But I still freak out about a few things. Going live, I refuse to go live. And I think, what can go wrong? So I have anxiety about that. Contest, people keep asking me, you're so confident, you should go. There was a TLI contest. And I said, to be honest, my club is virtual from the beginning. I've never had like to give a speech in person because I've only been virtual. Anyway, so I'm going to work up my courage, but now after meeting you.
Waiting for, Patty. What are you waiting for?
I was waiting to meet you.
How
Darren.
can you inspire others unless you step out yourself?
Well, I'm stepping out plenty, but I'll just step out some more. I will do it. I'll break my face. You know what? I'm going to fail and fail fast. Woo!
I'm watching you.
Yes. And speaking of failure, that brings me to Rudy. I found out because I was doing some research to get to know you a little bit better. And I had to watch the movie because the way you talked about how it was your all-time favorite movie, I go, Darren Lacroix has an all-time favorite movie. I'm going to watch it. So I watched it last night, and my God, what a movie. How many times can someone endure failure? Like I've seen a lot of movies in my days. I'm 42 years old. Okay, I've seen a lot of movies, but I've never seen a single human failing so many times within 2 hours. Okay. Anyhow, my question to you is, if our viewer right now is filled with ideas and dreams, but they keep getting shut down and ridiculed, even by their loved ones, particularly by their loved ones, and they have been dealing with failure after failure after failure, what advice would you like to give them right now, Darren?
Watch Rudy. Watch Rudy. And I say that jokingly, and I'm serious. Rudy came out in 1993. I started stand-up in 1992. The reason that movie resonated with me is I could resonate with that character. You know, Sean Austin, who plays Rudy Rudiger, like, yeah, he got beat up. He wasn't smart enough. He had dyslexia. I have dyslexia. Other world champions stuttered when and they overcame that, and they still went on to be the world champions. So surround yourself with inspiration. Like, you failed. Yes. There's nobody who's successful who hasn't failed. You're going to fail. All you have to do, like Rudy, is get up one more time than you failed. And so I love the story. And that's why that movie meant, because I would go back and I'll tell you a quick story that I don't talk about much, but I love this story. So I got to meet the Rudy Rudiger. Did you hear me talk about this before?
No, I did not hear that one.
So it was when I moved here to Las Vegas. I've been here since 2013. 2007, been here 13 years at the time of this recording. And so I put it on my bucket list. I wanted to meet Rudy. And so first thing I did, jumped online and Googled it. And it turns out he had an office 1 mile from my house. I was like, ah! I could hear the choirs of angels. I was like, okay, this is supposed to happen. And there's a lot of challenges. And I didn't hear back from the office. I called the office. I emailed the office. And I was like, I'm going to Rudy. I'm going to Rudy him. And anyway, so I got to meet him, and I was like a little kid having lunch with Santa Claus. And I'm like, it's Rudy. One day he came to my house and he told me this story. He said that his daughter had won a choir contest and had won a competition, and her fellow choir mates, I'm not sure the right term there, they won the opportunity to sing the national anthem at a Lakers game. So he, living in Las Vegas, he drove out there with his daughter, and they got to the Staples Center where the Lakers played, and they were there 2 hours early. And the only person in the building was Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant was shooting baskets by himself, no one around. So Rudy turned to his daughter. He said, do you want to meet Rudy? Excuse me, do you want to meet Kobe? And she's like, yeah. So they start going down. Of course, security stops them. You know, they didn't see the security, but they didn't want anybody to get near him. And so Rudy yells down, "Hey, Kobe, it's Rudy." And Kobe stops and says, "Rudiger?" And he goes, "Yeah." And Kobe goes up to Rudy and tells Rudy that when he was playing semi-pro basketball in Europe, he would go home every day and watch the movie Rudy. And he said, if a guy with no talent works that hard and can achieve what you did, how important and what could happen to a guy with talent if he worked that hard? He looked Rudy dead in the eye and he said, "I'm here 2 hours early because of you." Oh. Exactly. A guy who played in college for 28 seconds literally inspired one of the greatest basketball players ever. And that's why Toastmasters matters. Everyone has a story and the world needs to hear it. Who would have thought Kobe Bryant was inspired by Rudy's story and Rudy's struggle? So if you're failing again and again and again, congratulations, you got a story. Just get up. And remember, your kids are watching. Your kids will hear what you say, but they watch what you do. And what you do is generational. What you do is generational. You're not just inspiring your kids if you keep going, but they're going to learn from that and they're going to inspire your grandkids.
Wow. Wow. I will say no more. Thank you. Thank you for this. So last question for you. Thank you so much for your patience. What's the next step for Darren Lacroix?
That's a great question. And I appreciate you asking that. So I was so moved by the Rudy story. This is in the book, 17 Minutes to Your Dream, which right now is not out yet, but by the time when you're watching this, it will be out in January 2022. Anyway, this story is in there because it answers your question directly. I was sitting around with one of my mentors and we were doing a mastermind. And we're sitting in a booth at a restaurant and he goes around, he asks everybody, "So what's your big, crazy, ridiculous dream?" And he goes around, he got to me and I felt really sheepish. And I'm like, "Whoa." And I'm like, "What is happening? Why am I feeling?" And he asked me, he said, "Darren, what's your big dream?" And I said, "Well, you know, I love the movie Rudy and I was inspired when I got to meet Rudy. And I thought, I've been telling my story around the world to Toastmasters around the world. And they love it and it inspires them because of my struggle, because of how bad I was my first time on stage." And I said, "Well, what if they made a movie of my story? But who am I to have a movie made about me?" And my friend Mike slammed his hands down, got right up in my face and he goes, "Who are you not to?" And so on that moment, a dream was born. And I started on a journey to write the script. And it took me 9 years to write the script. And right now I'm trying to sell it to people in Hollywood. And it's a Christian movie. I did the Christian version. So if you're watching this and you know the Kendrick brothers or the Irwin brothers or somebody who makes Christian movies, I'd love the opportunity for them to look at my script because I feel like it's a God story and it's supposed to be told because there's no way that I could have written that speech that you saw that you loved so much. No way I even got on stage or even had the dream if it wasn't for God's involvement.
100%. It's all part of the plan, Darren.
Amen. So on my wall in my office, I have the Rudy movie poster, and right next to it, I have the visualization of my poster.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's my story, but it's God's glory.
Yes. You know I'll be the first one to watch your movie, right?
Come on down.
Woo! Here I come. All right. So finally, if someone in the audience would like to reach out to you to finally go to the next level and have breakthroughs, how can they reach you?
Best thing is go to stagetimeuniversity.com, stagetimeuniversity.com. And you can see how me and my team of world-class coaches and all the programs I put together step by step by step so you can create a world-class speech. It's all the things I wish other people taught me that I had to learn the hard way. So I'm here to kind of make your journey quicker to become unforgettable. And I'm on YouTube and social media and just started on TikTok. But anyway, you can find me. Just use my name, Darren Lacroix.
Awesome. Darren, thank you so much. Honestly, I feel so blessed that you came here. And your story has inspired audiences in over 45 international cities, and I'm sure the number is higher by now, including faraway places with your inspirational journey from chump to champ. And are there any parting words from you, Darren?
Stage time, stage time, stage time.
And I will leave you with this. The power of your voice can change the world. Find it and use it. Until next time. Bye.